Isa sa mga pinakabagong rides dito sa Enchanted Kingdom, yung tinatawag na Twin Spin. Isang uri ng roller coaster na umiikot, bumubulusok, at winawasiwas ka na napakabilis. Pero bukod dito, umiikot din yung mismong bagon kung saan ka nakasakay. Kaya napaka-exciting, napakabilis. Woo!
Hello, good day. My name is Linart, and together with you, we will be reviewing parametric curves in R3 and vector valued functions. So first, recall that a vector valued function takes the form r of t equal to the vector whose components are x of t, y of t, and z of t. So here, x, y, and z are considered to be real functions of t. So yung t na to, remember, we call that the parameter. Okay? So yung domain naman, nitong function na to is the set R, which is equal to the intersection of the domains of x, y, and z. Okay? So madali lang mahanap yung domain. Kunin mo na intersections. Okay? So here we know that if we have vector functions f and g, and we have f of t, which is a real function, meaning it is a function whose output is a real number, then the following properties still suffice. So yung usual properties natin with the functions, it is still applied dito, no? For vector valued functions. So addition and subtraction of functions, dot products, cross products, and scalar multiplication, all of them are still applicable dito. And of course, function composition also still applies. So keep that in mind. So hindi naman siya masyadong bago sa atin, right? So now, a curve in R3 can be described, well, here we'll describe it in two ways. First, as a parametric curve. So kung parametric curve siya, we define that to be the set of points, x, y, and z, which satisfies the following. So remember, yung t natin, it will vary. So for example, you can have t from 1 up to 3, t from -5 up to 8. So since functions, itong x, y, and z na dito, itong tatlo, their functions, for a specific value of t, they will result to a real number, right? So itong x, y, and z in this part, sila naman a real number. So don't be confused. Ito, functions, while itong naka-blue, which I'm highlighting, they're real numbers, okay? And then, kapag i-collect mo lahat ng points na yun, then you can describe that as a curve in R3, okay? So another way is describing it as a graph of a vector valued function. So this time, it will now be the set of points that is traced out by this vector function right here. So remember, a vector is typically somehow, parang siyang movement, no? So yung movement na yan, kapag i-trace mo, eventually, kung i-collect mo yung lahat ng points na pinaglilipatan niya, right, for each value of t, you will eventually be able to obtain a graph, and that graph can be described as the curve that we're talking about in R3. Okay? So let's start with the first problem. We want to find the domain of this vector function right here. So we have the vector function r of t equal to the vector with the following components. So remember, ano ulit yung domain ng isang vector function? Can you still remember? So to find the domain of a vector function, we just take the intersection of the domains of yung x, y, and z from earlier. So in this case, we take the domains of nitong first component, second component, third component. Ano ba yung mga domains nila? Tapos once you find that out, get the intersection and you'll get the domain of the actual vector function. Okay, so try it out for yourself and see what you get. Okay, so I'm hoping that you did try on your own. So ngayon, let's try to find the domain of our vector function. So first and foremost, well, you can remember na ano yung kailangan gawin natin dito. But maglagay muna tayo ng labels para mas madali. We let x of t, y of t, and z of t be as follows. Right? So yung task na lang natin ngayon ay hanapin yung domain ng bawat isa. Yun yung next step natin. Right? So for x, the function x, madali lang siya. Kasi t squared minus 4 is just a polynomial. It's a second degree polynomial to be exact. Tapos remember that any polynomial, ang domain niya ay yung set of real numbers lang. Bakit? Kasi kahit ano pang ipasok mo na value for t dyan, na real number, wala tayong problems. Okay? So the domain of x is just the set of real numbers. For y, it's a cosecant function. So first recall that the cosecant of t is just the same as 1 all over the sine of t. Okay? So, anong values of t lang ba yung magkakaroon ng problems dito? So, itong function na to, it will be undefined kapag 0 yung sine of t. Right? Kung ito 0. Kasi, undefined na nga yung function. 0 yung denominator niya. So, remember, yung sine function, if you're going to at least try to plot that, no? Hindi naman yung actual function, but for example, meron tayong ganito, no? So, ito 0. When you turn 90 degrees, that's pi over 2, right? When you turn another 90 degrees, so 180 degrees na total, that's pi, right? Tapos, when you continue, that's 3 pi over 2. Up until makabalik ka, that's 2 pi, 0 or 2 pi, right? So, you might imagine na, remember yung sign yung kinukuha niya ay yung y values. So, kailan ba naging 0 yung y value nito? So, it's 0 here and here. So, in other words, we're considering all multiples of pi, right? All integer multiples of pi. So, somehow doon mo nakikita. Kasi, it's actually here where cosine is 0. Pero kapag sine yung tinitingnan natin, yung mga 0 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, doon siya nagsi-0, right? Yung sine of t. Okay, so with that, we're able to find the domain of our function now. So, pwedeng kahit anong value for t as long as hindi maging 0 yung sine of t. In other words, that will just be the set of all real numbers minus the set containing all integer multiples of pi. Okay, so you have 0, negative pi, negative 2 pi, until, well, infinity, negative infinity, and so on. Okay, so ngayon yung last na titingnan natin ay yung ZFT natin. So, ZFT is actually, it's a logarithmic function. So, yung ln, remember, kailan ba siya naging undefined? Well, nakalagay na dito. It's undefined whenever yung argument niya ay 0 or negative number. Right? Kasi, the ln tells you kung ano yung exponent dapat ng e such that yung value na yung nasa loob. Right? So, kung negative yan or 0, then you can't find such an exponent for e. No? So, ito yung kailangan natin hanapin. Ano nga ba yung values na yung t squared minus 4 ay not positive. So, you can factor out t squared minus 4 as follows, and then you just get the critical values and inspect yung magiging value niya. Kailan nga ba siya less than or equal to 0? So, you have negative 2 and 2 here. Let's take a test point. Let's say 0. So, kung 0 to, you have positive then negative. So, that will be negative. Negative siya sa interval na nasa gitna. Meanwhile, kapag nasa labas, let's consider, let's say, negative 10. Kung negative 10, then ito negative, so positive. Dito rin, if you take 10, what will happen is that this will be positive, positive, so positive pa kayo. So, yung kailangan lang natin na i-consider yung interval na nasa gitna ng negative 2 and 2. Okay? So, of course, including yung negative 2 and 2 since may quality tayo sa 0. Right? So with the table signs, we find that undefined lang yung z whenever t is in negative 2, comma 2. So yung domain ng z natin is just the set of all real numbers except this interval right here. So finally, we just need to get the intersection of everything, and kapag pagsama-sama natin lahat yun, the domain of x accepts all real numbers, and domain of y, lahat except this one. The domain of z, lahat except this interval. So, ganito dapat yung itsura ng domain natin. So, basically, it's just a set of all real numbers. Tapos, tinanggal natin lahat ng values na magkaka-cause ng problems for the other functions. Okay? So, for the second problem, we consider two vector functions, f and g, and we want to find the expression, the value of this expression right here. So, ito medyo direct siya. We just need to apply the properties and then perform computations, and then we're good. So, I encourage you to try this on your own, and sige, go ahead. Alright, so I hope that na-try nyo. So, first, yung gagawin natin, hanapin natin muna natin yung dot product. Kasi it just makes more sense na yun. So yung dot product, remember, we just get the first kukunin natin yung product ng magkakatapat na component. So yung x magkatapat yung x, yung y magkatapat sa y. Tapos, oops, itong z magtatapat sa z ng kabila. And then we'll get the sum of all of them. No? In other words, ganito yung itsura niya. So, eto, this one multiplied with this one, plus this one multiplied with this one, plus this one multiplied with this one. So kapag gawin natin yon, it will look something like this, right? So you can go ahead and check the computations. It will look like this. And when we simplify further, then pwede natin siya mapadali, right? We'll get t cubed sine squared t plus, well, dito, naging ano na lang siya, t cubed cosine squared t. Tapos, nag-separate siya kasi dahil dito. Minus cosine squared t minus t cubed. Okay? So, you can check na equal talaga siya dito. And then, you can check na we can cancel things out. And actually, itong part na to, gagamit tayo ng isang property. So, here, I think it's best if balik ko ng konti. Just show me space. So here, you can factor out t cubed. Tapos, yung nasa loob lang ay sine squared t. And then, plus cosine squared t. Right? And remember, this is a famous identity sa trigonometry. And this is actually just equal to 1. Kaya t cubed na lang. Ito. Right? So you have t cubed minus t cubed. Magka-cancel out tong dalawa. So we're left with negative cosine t. Negative cosine squared t. Alright? So yun na pala yung dot product natin. So now, i-compose na lang natin. We have G circle the dot product. So alam natin yung value, yung value ng dot product is this one. So basically, we look at G of t. Tapos yung kukunin natin input, itong negative cosine squared t. In other words, whenever you see a t in our vector function G, papalitan lang natin yan with negative cosine squared t. Right? Lahat ng t, palitan lang. Kasi, parang remember yung function composition, ganun naman yung ginagawa natin. So, doing just that, we will end up with the result we're looking for, which is this one. So, mostly direct na siya. You just need to perform the computations and verify na totoo nga yung value na to. Of course, you can simplify if it's possible. Okay? So, for the last problem, we want to find parametric equations for the intersection of the plane z equals y plus 1 and the cone z squared equals x squared plus y squared. So medyo ano siya, but you just need to remember what we mean when we say intersection. And then you just need to remember how to parameterize equations. So go ahead, explore it on your own, and we'll talk about it in a bit. Okay, so I hope you found something insightful. So we're going to get the solution of this problem right now. And to do that, remember, we want an intersection. So yung first na gagawin natin is gusto natin hanapin kung saan sila magkaroon ng intersection. So basically, eto, gawin muna natin z squared, right? Let's square both sides. So you have z squared equal to y plus 1 squared. And then let's just find out what that will lead us, where that will lead us. And when you do that, ito yung makakuha natin, right? So, meron kang y squared plus 2y plus 1, that's z squared. So, kung ipasok mo yan dito, right? Kasi ito na yung z squared natin. I mean, equal yung z squared dito. So, we will get this equation right here, right? So, this will give us an intersection point kasi nag-substitute tayo. Okay? So, when we try to solve this one, well, magka-cancel out yung mga y squared on both sides, and we will just be left with 2y on one side. And simplifying, we'll get y is equal to x squared minus 1 all over 2. So, of course, I said in a recent video, I mean, in an earlier video, na there are many ways to parameterize an equation, and the simplest one is to simply let yung x mo to just be equal to t. Yung pinakasimple. So we're going to use that here. Of course, you can choose other values, maybe 2t or 3t if you want, but I guarantee you na ito natin yung pinakasimple. And then, since x of t is equal to t, then whenever you see x, let's just replace that with t, and this is what our y of t should look like. So now, yung problem na lang ay kailangan malaman natin kung ano yung ZFT natin. Okay? So to find ZFT, well, we already know kung ano yung XFT and YFT, but balikan natin yung equation from earlier na Z is equal to Y plus 1. So we know YFT, that's T squared minus 1. So T squared minus 1 over 2. So replacing that one here, basically makukuha na natin yung value natin for ZFT. Okay? So with that, this is just one parametrization of the curve. So there are others now you can explore, but this is already a good answer. Okay, so we have x, y, and z, which are all functions of t. Okay, so I hope that you learned something from this video, and I wish you the best of luck in your exam. Thank you.